Hey crew, Conrad coming at you with a lost and hopefully found on this bitchin' old school pan buggy, right? Also, I wanted to mention that the mission statement for the crew is to entertain and educate. And I got some education for you on this episode, so you're going to want to sit tight. But this particular lost and found, well, this one's kind of important to me because I let this car slip through my fingers about a year ago, and I'm hoping we can find it for the gentleman who was the original owner. Let's jump inside and take a closer look. Okay, crew, so John Crandall built this car originally in the early 1970s, and along with the photographs, he also sent a couple of paragraphs to give us some information about the car, which I'm super stoked about because then we get to jump into the history of sand cars as well. But I digress. Let's go ahead and check this out. So he states, first pictures are in Glamis of Thanksgiving in 1974. Competition Hill and Oldsmobile. The black and white photos are from Pismo Beach, or Oceano Dunes as you new Duners call it, right? The Glamis pictures were all taken by the young photographer that took the Competition Hill photo, which we'll get to, right? We called him Little Bill back when he was traveling with our group because we had a bigger Bill in the group who owned German Auto Machine Service in Covina. I don't remember Little Bill's last name, but I saw an article about him in one of the magazines recently. Bigger Bill, Bill Clater, had recently retired his tunnel buggy to upgrade to a cage rail, so we put the tunnel buggy back together for Little Bill to drive that weekend. So again, I love the stories about the dunes, right? But check out these old photos from the 1970s. We've got drag slicks on the back of this car with some probably 15 by 15 steel wheels. Double hoop kind of roll cage, but this is taking me back to the day, right? 1974. Guess what? That's when I was born. When he was out here goofing around. I should have bought this car. More to come on that. Pismo Beach back in the day. I mean, check out these black and white photos. These are just absolutely fantastic. Amazing machine, historical car. All right, so let's jump into the next article that he wrote. Hey, but real quick, before we take that deeper dive, there's two things. One, I wanted to share this photo that he sent. Chances are this is Competition Hill when it was super steep and still really big, right? What does he say? Pink car is right there. Thanksgiving, 1974. Should have bought it. Can you see I'm kicking myself, right? Anyhow, I would have given it back to John anyway if I'd have picked this car up. But there it is. I mean, here's a legendary photo of Competition Hill back in the day, right? The time lapse and the car sitting right there in 1974. So just a super bitchin' picture. And, you know, I'm a sucker for old sand cars in history. Now, here's kind of where I come in. This car came up for sale, just about a year or so ago. I saw it both on Facebook Marketplace as well as, what is the other one? OfferUp. And I saved it both in my Facebook Marketplace and in OfferUp. This car was on a trailer with another chassis laying on top of it upside down. It was in Temecula, California the last time I saw it. And the guy was asking, I don't know, it was a few $100, maybe $500 or $600 for this car. I knew there was historical value to it, and I was like, man, I should grab this car. I happen to be based out of Phoenix, Arizona, 5 hours away, a few $100, gas, driving all the time, the whole 9 yards. I didn't bother to go grab the car. The ads both disappeared. But I do know that this car was last seen in Temecula on a trailer, sitting on a trailer on all fours, complete, front to back, with another chassis sitting right up on top. So there's your first clue. If you happen to be in that area, or you happen to see these ads, or you happen to know this guy that has it, please have him get in contact with us so John can get this car back. All right, so now let's jump in, take a deeper dive in the pictures and the write-up. Okay, crew, so John says, here are a few points on my tunnel buggy. You can see the large rectangular fuel tank welded into the chassis under the back seat. There's an indicator for you right there. There was a small rack behind the driver's seat on the floor that held 2 spare 1-gallon plastic gas cans, which we can't see. Battery was on the floor behind the passenger seat. I cut 25 inches out of the tunnel to bring the pedal mounts back to that location and put 10 inches of it back in front of the cross member. You can see the 10 inches right there. I mean, come on, guys. It's just awesome. The no shock front end worked really well in the dunes. I added 2 aluminum plates on the sides of the roll bars just below the fill on the curves to mount KC daylighters after those photos were taken. So yeah, there's going to be some light somewhere around on here. The gauge cluster was lean, a VDO tack and a very bright oil pressure light mounted on the steering column, which I can see the tack. Must be somewhere around there, the light. 2 toggle switches originally mounted on top of the tunnel, which we can't see. And then large brake taillights were mounted on the bottom of the crossbar that wrapped around the back seat on both sides. Brake lights were wired to standard VW switches on each side of the buggy reins. They would act as individual turn signals when you grabbed a handle, both on when you hit the pedal. So what John's talking about right there is, you know, when you hit your brake pedal or you have your walker brakes, your steering brakes, and you have either a dual handle or a single handle, when you hit your foot on the brake, what happens? Both taillights light up, right? But something that's really cool that they used to do back in the day is they would wire the taillights independently. So when you grab your walker brake on the left, guess what? That light lit up. Grab it on the right, that light would light up. So that's what he's talking about when he's mentioning dual lights, blinkers, the whole nine. So the guy behind you, whenever you grabbed your brakes, he knew what was happening up ahead of you. So food for thought. I think I'll do that on all my cars from here on out. I totally forgot about that trick. Thanks, John. That sort of became a signature on any car with a steering brake that left my shop while I was building, even if it was just a repair on the brakes or electrical. The engine was a mild 1835 balanced to a gnat's ass, perfectly CC'd and polished chambered heads, and a Zenith carb. Some love was put into that engine, right? I mean, come on, gnat's ass, perfectly CC'd, polished chambers. All right, so remember, I said earlier, entertain and educate, buggy range. You see I highlighted that. Let's jump into some steering brakes. Check this out. And here they are, the buggy reins, the original Walker brakes. These things are super cool. I don't have a set. I've seen these pop up every once in a while. I'd kind of like to get some and just restore them as a wall hanger, you know, put them up for art, because these are just super cool. So these are the precursor to your Neil and your CNC Walker brakes that you see. Take a look at this ad. Buggy reins, ultimate steering control, built by Esslinger Hydraulics. Now that's new to me. This ad is from 1970, right? So I'm wondering if that's Esslinger Engineering, who used to build the Pinto motors, the 4-cylinder. I think they still do them, actually. But I mean, here we are in 2023. But I'm pretty sure this would be Esslinger Engineering who was offering these up for sale. Buggy reins, right? It's stamped right in the top. It had this really nice handle. I love that design. I mean, this is just all these old parts that were made back in the day that have dried up. They're just super cool, manufactured really well, and I'm just really stoked on them. So if you got a set of those buggy reins, well, they're not really worth a lot of money, but they're pretty hard to find, actually. So hang on to those, or put them up for sale on the Sandcar Buy Sell Crew Facebook page. I'm sure somebody will swoop them up. Probably me. Anyhow, all right, let's jump back into this. I mean, check out these wheelie photos. This is just absolutely fantastic. Way back in the day, right? Gosh. Sorry, I geek out on this stuff, guys. Let's jump in and see what he says. The first buggy I built was a Fun Runner fiberglass car from Doom Buggy Enterprises. That would be Roger Tebow, Roger and Linda Tebow. We'll jump into that in a second. In late 68, 69, when I got back from playing Navy during Vietnam. The pink tunnel buggy was my first pure dooner after trying to drive the glass car in the dunes a few times. Glass buggies look cool, but they're hard to see over and out of, right? That's why these tube frames are so awesome. Only took a couple of trips to decide I needed something different. As soon as a buddy and I finished the pink car, we built a 2-seater with the same roll bar design, but a little lower height for my buddy. So there's two, right? It was lime green. Who knows? Maybe that chassis is still hiding out there somewhere too. Watch for the roll bar configuration. I opened up my part-time business as Custom Buggies in July of 1970. Sand buggies, fiberglass buggies, and Baja bugs. Desert buggies were included shortly after. I mean, history right here, guys. Sandcar history. Okay, let's jump into Fun Runner for a sec. Entertain and educate. Let's jump back into some education. We got some on the buggy reins. Now let's jump into Fun Runner, Doom Buggy Enterprises, Roger and Linda Tebow, some of the OGs of the sandcar industry. I had the pleasure of meeting and shopping from them back in the 1990s when I was getting back into the sand dunes full bore. So you might remember going to the Sand Sports Super Show and seeing Roger and Linda's setup right here. Here's the last car that he had, catching some air in it. Here's Roger on a 250R, probably brand new back in the day. And then as I was doing some research on Roger, I also came across this. This is Roger, one of the cars that he built out of Fun Runner, on the cover of this 4-wheel, an off-road 1978 Hit the Sand special section. And guess what? I found it for sale and I just ordered it thanks to putting this video together. So I'm going to have this, and I'm going to need to get Roger and Linda to sign that for me. So Roger and Linda, if you're watching this right now, I need to come visit you. How about an icons of the industry? Let's do an interview. Okay, I digress. Moving on. Okay, so let's jump in and see some of the details that I just noticed right off the bat from these photos. One of the things I saw straight away when I was looking at this car a year or so ago was on the back, on the kid's seat, it says Custom Buggies. I didn't know who Custom Buggies were because, you know, it's been defunct or gone for a long time, but I knew something about it was historical. So the kid's seat in the back still says Custom Buggies on the back. I mean, overall, it's still pink. It still looked pretty much like this, right? The roll bar, we've got a single double hoop on this. and he put these plates in across the top. Once again, super awesome. You already mentioned the fuel tank that's under there, these 4 pea shooter style exhausts. I forget what those are called. Moving on. And I don't remember what it had for paddle tires on it, but I know that it rolled for sure. Next to the passenger and driver seats, he welded in these tubes. They're kind of hard to see. Actually, let me blow that up. You got some tubes on there for some protection, which is super nice. Also, remember the 10 inches that he welded back in. So he brought the pedals back where you could reach and then put these in here. But that's what I see on this one. It would have had a swing axle and a Type 1 VW engine. Let's take a look at another picture. So here's a pretty decent shot, right, where we get some idea of the details, how this roll bar came down into the side of the torsion housing, however that was built up. We've got some tubing on here. It looks like expanded metal floor, which was pretty standard back in the day. We can see that tachometer, the front beam with the no shock towers, the double headlights. From what I remember of seeing this car for sale, those headlights were still there. Looks like we got a skid pan or skid plate of some sort under there as well. And then the rear hoop that goes around the back where they've got the kid's seat in there. All right, let's see if we see anything else on this and then we'll button it up. I don't know, crew. I guess that's about all I can really point out on this, other than just reminiscing about being at Pismo Beach back in the day when Devil's Slide was still open and you could actually dune there, right? Without turning and hitting a fence at every corner. But check out these photos, these old black and whites. These just take me back in the day. I mean, it's been forever since I've been to Pismo Beach. Check them out, bicycling this thing on 2 wheels, building some great memories. Let's find this car and let's get it back to John, right? Let's get it back to the rightful owner and let him restore it and take it out the dunes for all of us to see. I'd really like him to find it and I could follow up with him and go film it out in the sand dunes. So if you know where this car is, either leave a comment here or go to Sandcar Buy Sell Crew on Facebook, join, or if you've already joined, and leave your comments in there as well. We'd like to return this car to him. So otherwise, that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. See you in the dunes.